Hey guys, so it's time to compare here the Sony Xperia X with the Galaxy S7 Edge. This is Samsung's best versus the near best of Sony. Obviously the best will be Xperia X Performance when that comes later in June, but we just want to do a quick little comparison here because you can get the S7 Edge for about €100 more than the Xperia X, and we wanted to see, does the Xperia X compare on any level with the Samsung. So first of all, we can talk about the build quality. Now, I've talked a lot about this in the past. I think it's very subjective what people prefer. I think if you're someone who likes to show off a lot more, you will enjoy the glass construction here on the Samsung. It does lend to a very beautiful design, particularly when the screen's off. You can see that ambient display goes amazing with the shiny nature of the device, but it does come with drawbacks. You do get a lot of fingerprints on the device. It does slip a lot as well, like on the table as well as on the chairs, and it's less durable at the end of the day. I have already broken a Galaxy S7 just dropping it. A lot of people have been also saying that these sides can be very vulnerable to damage, which is something which is not very good. But the Sony seems to be going with a smaller kind of design for its phones here, so we do get aluminium on the back, which is a very good design choice. And personally, I'm a big fan of aluminium and metal because it's premium, but it's also very practical. So very subjective which one you prefer, but I think the Sony is a little bit easier to hold in the hand and use with one hand, obviously, because this is 5.5 inches. I think the Samsung does dominate the Sony though when it comes to the actual bezel ratio, because these curved displays, you don't have a bezel on them, and that's unparalleled for viewing. It also gets the screen kind of on a smaller stature here, like a bigger screen, so Sony could definitely innovate that on their own flagship phones. Also, we do have obviously a very nice 2K display, not 4K, which is 534 ppi on the Samsung versus a little bit more modest Full HD on the Sony. Now, I think the Sony actually has very good display parameters when it comes to the contrast levels, etc. It's also very customizable in the settings, like you can have more realistic kind of setting if you want, but personally I have it exactly like what I get on Samsung devices, like an AMOLED super vivid mode. So I think the actual viewing angles are very actually good. Probably not quite as good as the S7 Edge. Obviously it is in a league of its own when it comes to the display quality, but maybe Sony will implement a HDR kind of technology in future 4K phones, like the Xperia Z5 Premium obviously has a 4K display. Other than that, we do have the Exynos 8890 in Europe. Obviously, a lot of people will be thinking that that is a beast processor which destroys the Xperia X. And I have to say, day to day, maybe it's the kind of bloated nature of TouchWiz and the 2K display, but the actual Xperia X keeps up and sometimes even surpasses the day-to-day kind of performance here with the Galaxy S7 Edge. Obviously, it's probably not fair to compare the Xperia X because it's not coming with a Snapdragon 820 like the Xperia X Performance, but if you're looking at it from a performance perspective, you're not going to be displeased with the Snapdragon 650 solution, which honestly I'm saying it really does do a really good job at pushing around the Sony light skin, and the Sony light skin is also a nice improvement over past skins, whereas you do get a lot of duplication with the Samsung. You can see we do get these apps which are not really 100% necessary when you've got Google apps on there. We do get very similar theming options on both of them though, so you can see they both have a themes editor. I think the Samsung's a little bit more powerful when it comes to there's more user submitted themes here, whereas the one on the Sony is growing in its stature. I think one thing I do enjoy about the Sony is the widgets a little bit more. You can see we do have this What's New widget, and it kind of dynamically updates itself. which is nice. It looks a bit more better than some of the widgets you get on the Samsung. Another area where people might be interested in is in terms of the camera performance. So on the new Sony, we're getting 23 megapixel camera. Sony sticking with the more pixels is better versus less pixels, and on the Samsung we're getting the very nice 12 megapixel 1.7 aperture shooter. So we did do a few shots out and about here, and you can have a look at some of the results. We did do a selfie shot comparing the 13 megapixel front facing with the 8 megapixel, and I have to say, you know, it's very comparable in terms of the detail when it comes to the selfie. If we just zoom up here, you can see, you know, it's very you can make out everything in pretty much the same kind of detail here. So, you know, it's not inferior by any means. We can have a look as well at the nighttime shooting, which I think a lot of people will be interested in, and see if it's comparable. And I have to say, you know, being honest, even though we do love Sony here, I think that the Samsung has the edge here, no pun intended, when it comes to the low light. So you can see we did do a shot here in like pitch black, and I think it's a slight improvement over the Xperia Z5 performance, which was very kind of noisy, but you still see the benefit here of having the 1.7 aperture. You can see you know, things are a lot clearer on the S7 Edge, so that you know, lends to itself really. But in terms of the actual daytime shooting, it's about comparable really. You know, I think the Sony does very well when it comes to well lit environments. So I think you're not going to have much of a problem there when it comes to the shooting. The video, you know, you get a 4K video on the S7 Edge, which is probably going to be better day to day with the optical image stabilization, but the electronic image stabilization Sony employs is also very good generally. So I'd probably give it to the Samsung for the more slightly better performance low light, but the combination of better speed and you know, reliability on the Xperia X makes it definitely a solid improvement over the Z5 line. So that's the main thing really. If they could hopefully watch this video like they did with the last video and implement optical image stabilization and, you know, bigger pixels like ultra pixels, then I think we'd be definitely having a comparison here. So other than the camera kind of thing, we do have some pros and cons between both of them. Now you do get wireless charging capability on the S7 Edge, which is something I definitely like to see Sony implement, because it means you can just plump it on a like a charge, like a key mat as you go into your house, which means that you don't have to even bother plugging it in, which is very nice. Also, apparently the Samsung S7 Edge is waterproof, but I disagree there. I don't think it's waterproof because you know, I did do some water tests on this and I can feel like a very squidgy home button here, and also the speaker doesn't actually work properly anymore. Sony is not actually advertising that this is waterproof, but I'm guessing it probably could survive some water abuse. It you know, at the end of the day, it depends really how much water gets in there. I do enjoy the Apple philosophy of not actually, you know, talking about the waterproofing, but actually putting it in. So you know, Apple phones do come back to life when you have done a water test on them. So other than that, both of them support micro SD obviously now, which is very good. You're getting a slightly bigger battery on the S7 Edge, which lasts I'd say like 2 days moderate to heavy usage, which is fantastic. But I've noticed the battery on the Xperia X is definitely comparable day to day. You know, I've not had to charge it. I've only charged it once since I got it, which has the fast charging, which is awesome. So even though it's a smaller kind of battery, it's a more efficient phone, I think, because of the, you know, less resource intensive display. And obviously we do have the price to talk about. We do have this only a little bit more than the Sony here. So I think many people may be thinking that the S7 Edge brings more to the table, but you know, if you're a Sony fan, personally I'd say you should wait until the Xperia X performance, because that's coming with the flagship processor obviously, as well as all the benefits of, you know, the Sony software and optimization. So we'll definitely check them out. I think they're due out late June maybe here, so that could be good. But yeah, just a quick little comparison here between the Xperia X and the S7 Edge. If you've got any questions, do let me know and I'll try and answer them. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Cheers.